Morning. The faint sunlight filtered through the narrow porthole, falling on Lin Chia's cheek. His eyelids trembled slightly as he slowly opened his eyes. After talking with Gilgamesh last night and leaving the god's mental hospital, he quickly fell into a deep sleep, unknowingly dozing off against the wall until daybreak. Lin Chia checked the time, quickly freshened up, and opened the door to walk straight toward the bow of the ship. Although the sun had just risen, there were already many Upper Demon Society members busy on the deck. Lin Chia's gaze swept around, and as expected, he didn't see Jin Yen's figure. Yesterday she said she had important things to do for 3 days and wouldn't appear. Who knows what exactly? Chia. A voice came from behind. And Qingyu, accompanied by Jiang Er floating in the air, walked across the deck to his side. Why are you up so early too? Lin Chia raised an eyebrow. He didn't sleep at all last night, Jiang Er couldn't help but complain. He spent the entire night studying this cruise ship along with some speedboats, lifeboats, the control room and all the supporting facilities on this ship. Lin Chia suddenly understood. You were playing thief in the middle of the night? I was just looking around, not being a thief, Qingyu said righteously. And while analyzing, I found several system flaws and fixed them for them. Did you discover anything? It's amazing, Qingyu couldn't help but say. This ship and 98% of everything on it is made up of pixel blocks of various sizes. I can't figure out the principle behind these pixel blocks, but they seem to have a magical power that allows them to perfectly construct anything while ignoring macroscopic physics. So, her ability is just building with pixel blocks. Qingyu gave Lin Chia a complicated look. If you want to understand it that way, that's fine. But it's definitely not as simple as you think. Anyway, this is the most amazing ability I've seen so far. Lin Chia's eyebrows slightly raised. He had personally witnessed Jin Yen's ability to assemble McLarens and cannons with her bare hands. But from a visual perspective, this ability didn't seem particularly powerful, at least not reaching the level of divine void. However, since Qingyu could give such high praise, it meant this ability truly had some extraordinary aspects. Just as Lin Chia was about to say something, his gaze suddenly focused as he turned to look in the direction the ship was heading, narrowing his eyes. What's wrong? Seeing Lin Chia's changing expression, Qingyu asked in confusion. 20 kilometers away, 2 marine mysteries have targeted this ship and are heading this way, Lin Chia calmly said. Judging by their levels, one is a Klein, and the other is a Boundless. Mysteries, attacking? Qingyu nodded. That's normal. Such a large cruise ship sailing at sea would definitely attract the attention of other mysteries. Lin Chia looked around and stopped an Upper Demon Society member who was about to leave the deck. Hello, is there something you need? She was a tall black woman with an athletic build. Now stopped by Lin Chia, she asked politely. You're being targeted by mysteries, Lin Chia warned. Mysteries? Currently 18 kilometers away. At this speed, they'll soon hit your ship. The black woman looked at Lin Chia in surprise. 18 kilometers? She hesitated for a moment, instinctively looking up toward the top of the cruise ship. Within 5 seconds after she spoke, a dazzling red light shone from the warning lights on top of the ship, while a deep humming sound began to echo throughout every corner of the vessel. There really is something coming. The black woman was initially shocked but quickly regained her composure. She turned and said, Thank you for your warning. Please return to your cabins as the deck might become unsafe. Lin Chia and Qingyu exchanged glances and nodded. All right. As the deep humming grew clearer, the black woman quickened her pace toward the cabin, while the other Upper Demon Society members who had been busy on the deck calmly walked back to the cabins, seemingly accustomed to such situations. This ship also has special equipment for large-scale detection, Qingyu explained as they walked toward the cabin. Since it's built with pixels, its detection range differs from conventional radar. Probably only 16 kilometers, but the fact that such electronic equipment can work in the mist is already quite impressive. Moreover, the humming sound used for alerts is at a special frequency that human ears can clearly hear, but 85% of mysteries cannot. Otherwise, releasing too loud or sharp noises in the mist would quickly attract more mysteries. The two stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows on the second floor of the cabin, looking at the hazy mist in the direction of the bow. Lin Chia asked in surprise. Is this ship that powerful? It's not the ship that's impressive, but the engineers who designed it and President Jin Yen who built it, and Qingyu pointed at the floor. Not just anyone can design such a massive and complex vessel capable of navigating through the mist. Behind the Upper Demon Society must be an extremely top-tier research team covering all fields. As they were talking, the ship shook slightly, and the surface of the spacious deck began to sink. Soon, 3 thick gray pixel cannon barrels were raised high. The caliber of these pixel cannons was monstrous, with muzzles the size of 2-story houses. 2 of the cannon barrels began to automatically turn toward the hazy mist, seemingly locking onto something. Boom boom. 3 seconds later, 2 thick crimson light beams instantly flashed into the mist and disappeared. Lin Chia seemed to sense something, his eyebrows slightly raising. The cruise ship continued to advance slowly on the sea. After a while, the corpses of 2 huge mysteries floated in the bloody waters on both sides of the ship, one Klein and one Boundless, both killed with a single shot from the pixel cannons. After confirming their deaths, the Upper Demon Society members unhurriedly walked onto the deck and began maintaining the 3 pixel cannons. Lin Chia and Qingyu also walked out of the cabin. Hello. And Qingyu stopped an Upper Demon Society member, smiling shyly. He pointed to the 2 mystery corpses floating by the ship. Excuse me, can I take these 2 mystery corpses to go? 3 days later. Lin Chia sat in the restaurant on the 4th floor of the cruise ship, basking in the morning sun, leisurely taking a sip of coffee. He and Qingyu and Jiang Er had been sailing with the Shangxia Society's ship for 3 days. According to the nautical chart, they were approaching the waters near Daxia's border, and before long they would enter Daxia's territory. Lin Chia put down his coffee cup, his gaze passing through the bright floor-to-ceiling windows to the deck at the bow of the ship. 2 enormous mystery corpses were bound to the deck surface by invisible threads. From their outlines, one looked somewhat like an octopus, while the other was half human, half seahorse. At this moment, many Shangxia Society members were standing near the 2 mystery corpses, curiously observing the young man wearing a surgical white gown and holding various strange cutting tools. And Qingyu crouched on the deck, carefully using a scalpel to cut through every inch of the mystery flesh, gray light flickering in his eyes. Even with everyone watching, his hands didn't tremble in the slightest. It was as if he wasn't dissecting 2 monsters, but rather sculpting some precious work of art with his scalpel. It had been 3 days since the 2 mysteries were salvaged. During these 3 days, and Qingyu had been dissecting them on the deck without sleep or rest, like a tireless machine. Meanwhile, on the top floor of the cruise ship, a door that had been sealed for several days slowly opened. Jin Yen, wearing a scientific research robe and a monocle, walked out of the building block room with a haggard face, pinched the bridge of her nose and let out a long sigh. Finally finished. She slowly moved to the window, her eyes gazing at the distant seascape. Then, as if discovering something, she let out a soft exclamation and shifted her gaze to the 2 enormous mystery corpses on the deck and in Qingyu, who was carefully dissecting them. A look of confusion appeared in Jin Yen's eyes. After hesitating for a moment, she changed out of her research robe, walked down the stairs and headed straight for the deck. President. Hello, President. President, you've finally emerged from seclusion? Several Shangxia Society members who were watching brightened up when they saw Jin Yen approaching. Jin Yen nodded slightly, walked to the 2 corpses and asked puzzledly, what is he doing? I don't know, it looks like dissection. It's been 3 full days and he hasn't even had a sip of water. I thought our Shangxia Society already had enough strange people, but I didn't expect there would be even stranger ones. A Shangxia Society member sighed. Oh right, President. The knight seemed to remember something. Didn't we tell you before that the ship's freshwater conversion device and a composite pixel power cylinder were damaged? When I went to check yesterday morning, I found they had been restored. Restored? Jin Yen was stunned. Not just restored, the damaged power cylinder's performance has increased by 15%. I personally dismantled that power cylinder to modify the motorcycle. The pixels were almost completely damaged. How could it possibly be restored? Jin Yen's face was filled with confusion. I was curious too, so I checked the surveillance footage yesterday and found that this person wandered around the ship the night before and stopped at the power cylinder for about 10 minutes. If I'm not mistaken, he must have fixed it, the knight said, pointing at Qingyu, who was still dissecting. Jin Yen's mouth fell open uncontrollably. You've emerged. Lin Chia's voice came from behind Jin Yen. Lin Chia, where did you recruit these monsters from? Jin Yan couldn't help asking when she saw Lin Chia. Qingyu. He's my deputy, Lin Chia said with a faint smile. Impressive, isn't he? Absolutely abnormal. As the two were chatting, the gray light in Qinyu's eyes gradually faded. He put away his dissection tools and walked over looking somewhat tired. And Qingyu. Jin Yan stepped forward, her eyes gleaming as she said, would you be interested in coming back to Utopia? With me? Our Shangxia society needs talents like you. And Qingyu was stunned. Lin Chia? Trying to poach my deputy right in front of me? Do you believe I'll cut your ship in half with one slash? Sorry, President Jin Yan, I still prefer Nightfall. And Qingyu said with an apologetic smile. Seemingly sensing Lin Chia's dangerous gaze, Jin Yan shrugged helplessly, abandoning her kidnapping plan, but still patted Qingyu's shoulder and said, no problem, when you have time come visit, Utopia. The Shangxia Society will always welcome you. By the way, we may not have much else, but we have plenty of powerful mystery corpses. You can dissect them however you want, as many as you need. Hearing these words, Qingyu's eyes immediately lit up. Great. Lin Chia sensed trouble. Jin Yan's corpse temptation had hit Qingyu's sweet spot directly. Just as he was about to speak, as if sensing something, he turned his head toward the direction the ship was heading. We're almost there, he murmured. President, we're about to cross the Daxiao border. A Shangxia Society member came forward and said almost simultaneously. Jin Yan raised an eyebrow. Good, everyone get ready, we'll be docking soon. After receiving the order, the Shangxia Society members on the deck quickly became busy. And Qingyu sank the two dissected mystery corpses into the sea and stood with Lin Chia at the bow, gazing at the miracle wall in the distance that blocked the invading mist. The Shangxia Society's cruise ship slowly crossed the Daxiao border and entered the miracle wall. The mist that had obscured their vision instantly dissipated, revealing a vast, clean sea under the azure sky. Daxiao, we've finally entered Daxiao. On the busy deck, several Shangxia Society members paused to stare at the beautiful sea around them. The only free place in the world that the president has mentioned. Most Shangxia Society members had been brought out from different human circles by Jin Yan. They had only heard about Daxiao's existence from Jin Yan's descriptions. Now, entering Daxiao's territory in person felt like a dream to them. Jin Yan walked to the bow, stood beside Lin Chia, looked at the blue sea in the distance and sighed deeply. The last time I returned to Daxiao was more than 2 years ago. I wonder what it's like now. Daxiao has changed quite a bit in these 2 years, Lin Chia smiled. Wum wum wum. As they were speaking, a deep alarm suddenly sounded and red light from the warning lamp on top of the ship shot out, rotating rapidly. President! There are numerous flying objects in the sky approaching us. A voice came through the speakers throughout the ship. Hearing this, the busy Shangxia Society members' faces changed simultaneously. Wasn't Daxiao supposed to be very safe? Why are there enemies? Jin Yan's brows also furrowed tightly. Her palm lightly clenched, and the deck below quickly transformed into countless tiny pixels that swirled around her. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the azure sky, more than 10 gray fighter jets streaked across, diving toward the Pixel cruise ship. Is it a fighter jet from Daxiao? Upon seeing these planes, Jin Yan immediately relaxed, returning all pixels to their original positions, and shouted to the Shangxia Society members on the ship. There are people. Everyone stay calm, don't activate any weapon modules. All Shangxia Society members immediately stopped what they were doing and shut down all alarms on the ship, leaving only a giant Pixel cruise ship floating on the sea. Lin Chia watched the planes streaking across the sky and looked around thoughtfully. They came so quickly. So this is what a war garrison looks like at full capacity. Based on the geographical location, these planes should be from Shanhaiguan. And Qingyu nodded. Shanhaiguan? What's that? Jin Yan asked in confusion. One of the 12 war garrisons Daxiao prepared for the full-scale divine war. Lin Chia explained briefly, and curiosity appeared in Jin Yan's eyes. Daxiao has set up something like this? Interesting. Do you need me to hack into their systems to identify ourselves? Jiang Air, floating in mid-air, asked softly. No. Doing that would make them think we're enemies, and Qingyu shook his head. Then what should we do? To them, the Shangxia Society's ship is completely an unknown entity from the mist. They won't let us leave easily. Leave it to me. Lin Chia said calmly, pushing out the hilt of Fanbai with his thumb. The blade was imbued with a touch of night color as he slashed toward the sky. Ka. Zhanbai returned to its sheath. What are you doing? Jin Yen raised an eyebrow. Lin Chia didn't answer, but in the next moment, beneath the azure clouds, a massive black arc appeared. Two sword marks intersected to form the Nightfall team's emblem, branded like a seal in the sky above the circling aircraft. What is that thing? In one of the circling fighter jets, the pilot saw the black mark overhead, his eyes filled with confusion. It's the Nightfall team's emblem. They've returned from overseas. A voice came through the channel. Commander Zhua has also sent word that these are our people. Return to the garrison. Number 4, you stay behind to guide them in. Received. The fighter jets circling in the sky simultaneously changed direction and roared away toward the horizon, leaving only one aircraft flying in the sky. Follow that plane, Lin Chia said as if understanding something, pointing at the aircraft. The massive cruise ship started moving again, cutting through the blue waves, following the direction of the departing plane at full speed. Before long, a silhouette like a continuous mountain range slowly appeared at the end of the horizon. Jin Yen stood at the bow, her silver hair dancing in the wind. She raised the pixel binoculars in her hand. Is that Shanhaiguan? Yes. Looks quite magnificent, has a sci-fi movie feel to it, Jin Yen remarked. She reached out and lightly brushed her dazzling silver hair, which visibly turned jet black at a speed visible to the naked eye, hanging like a waterfall down to her thighs. Your hair can change color? Lin Chia asked in surprise. I thought your silver hair this time was newly dyed. No, silver is my natural hair color. It's a family trait, Jin Yen shrugged. But sometimes hair that stands out isn't a good thing, so I usually turn it black when I'm on missions or facing many people. Your family's genes must be truly powerful, Lin Chia remarked. As the Pixel cruise ship approached, the towering steel walls at the center of Shanhaiguan gradually opened, revealing a wide waterway before them. After entering Shanhaiguan's outer wall, the cruise ship followed the guidance lights and stopped at the largest ship docking point between the inner and outer walls. A figure riding an electric scooter wobbled over from the inner wall. Senior Lu. Lin Chia recognized the familiar figure and spoke in surprise. Everyone disembarked from the ship. Lu Wei stopped, removed his helmet and smiled slightly. We meet again. Is this garrison your territory? What territory? This isn't the underworld, Lu Wei shrugged. I'm just temporarily stationed here. His gaze fell on Jin Yen and the others disembarking behind Lin Chia's group. He waved lightly. Beautiful lady, long time no see. 2 years ago when the 9 Pillar Gods invaded, he still vividly remembered Jin Yen driving a McLaren back from the mist to help Daxia. Of course, what left the deepest impression was the scene of her and Yi Fan leaving by flying car, abandoning him in Guanwuching. Long time no see, Jin Yen politely nodded. This ship is too conspicuous and inconvenient to dock at the city port, so let's leave it here for now, Lu Wei said as he led everyone. Suiqing called me. The plane to take you back to Beijing is ready. When you've finished your business, you can come back here to get the ship. No problem. The transport planes Suiqing prepared for Jin Yen and the others was large enough to carry all the Shangxia Society members at once. Lin Chia and his 2 companions took advantage of the free ride, traveling all the way from Shanhaiguan back to Beijing. As soon as they left the airport, 2 figures stood up from a stone block by the roadside. Chia. Lin Chia was startled to see Bailey Pang Pang and Chao Yuan walking quickly toward them. Weren't you at the Heavenly Palace? Old Chao has recovered pretty well, so we came down. Commanders was said you were flying back, so we've been waiting for you here. Bailey Pang Pang looked behind them, seemingly anxious. Where's Brother Zhuai? Lin Chia froze, falling silent. Chia, where is Brother Zhuai? Bailey Pang Pang asked again. Brother Zhuai, he. Lin Chia briefly explained what had happened to the 2 of them. Bailey Pang Pang's brows furrowed tightly. The hell origin? Bailey Pang Pang muttered. My premonition was correct. What did you say? Nothing. Bailey Pang Pang came back to his senses and looked down at his hands, confusion in his eyes. He clearly hadn't transcended the cycle of self-reincarnation, and neither his cultivation nor his Dao fruit had returned. Why could he sense that Brother Zhuai was in trouble? But fortunately the source Dao Jade he gave had taken effect. Shin Qingzhu should be out of immediate danger for now. Where are you heading next? Jin Yan asked. First to headquarters to report on the mission, then wait for further instructions, Lin Chia answered. What about you? Jin Yan was silent for a moment, then looked up into the distance. I need to go somewhere first. Total Commander's office. That's how it all happened. As Lin Chia finished speaking, Zhu Qing, standing by the window, closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. It's truly remarkable that you managed to escape from that place. We almost lost another special team. Lin Chia couldn't help but ask, Commander Zhuo, what should we do next? After Jin Yan sent back her message, I reported this matter to the Heavenly Court, Zhu Qing said as he picked up the kettle on the table and poured water for Lin Chia. Over these 3 days, the Heavenly Court has dispatched Thousand-Mile Eye, Favorable Wind Ear, the 5 water gods and the dragon kings of the East and South Seas to search for the whereabouts of the Ku system divine nation, but there's still no news. Additionally, I've also contacted Lu Wei, asking him to use his abilities to locate Shin Qingzhu's position. And the result? Lin Chia asked anxiously. Lin Chia had the utmost faith in Lu Wei's tracking abilities. Years ago he had ridden an electric scooter across the sea into Japan's human circle, and even to Takamagara to find him, so finding Shin Qingzhu shouldn't be impossible. It still doesn't work. As you said, that divine nation is alive and moves very quickly. Even if Lu Wei can sense its direction, he can't catch up with it, let alone enter it. The light that had ignited in Lin Chia's eyes dimmed once again. Regardless, we will do our best to find the Ku system divine nation. After all, every day that place exists is a calamity for this world, Zhu Qing said, trying to comfort Lin Chia, who appeared dejected. Lin Chia took the tea Zhu Qing handed him, took a sip and nodded silently. By the way, did you find any clues about Zhou Ping during your mission? We found some. Lin Chia briefly described the traces found on the island to Zhu Qing, who nodded thoughtfully. Hunted by 3 deities, and a month ago at that. With just this information we still can't determine his location. Do we have to rely on Lu Wei to make another sea journey? The island Lin Chia marked was far from Disya. If Lu Wei were to set out to sea to find Zhou Ping, given his speed, it would take at least a month, leaving the Shanhai Pass in the southeastern sea area without its guardian. Perhaps we could ask the Shangxia Society? Lin Chia suggested a new approach. The Shangxia Society has extensive influence overseas and very good intelligence. If Master Swordsman has made any significant moves overseas, they should have some information. Yes, we can try that. Recalling Jin Yan's expression on the ship, Lin Chia hesitated for a moment before asking. But why did she suddenly return to Disya? Does she have some mission? Mission? How could that be possible? Zhu Qing laughed. The Shangxia Society and the Night Watchers aren't in a subordinate relationship. How could we assign her missions? She came back only to pay respects to the deceased. The deceased? Commander Yi? Lin Chia asked cautiously. Zhu Qing examined Lin Chia carefully for a while. You little rascal, you're just curious about gossip, aren't you? No, I'm just curious, Lin Chia firmly denied. Well, there's nothing that can't be said. Zhu Qing sat down unhurriedly in his office chair. She and Commander Yi don't have the kind of relationship you're thinking of. About 10 years ago, when Jin Yan was still a little girl, she once caused havoc in Huaihai City, single-handedly defeating an entire team of night watchers stationed there. Zhu Qing seemed to recall something inside. Can you believe it? A 7 or 8-year-old girl knocked out 2 Klein-level experts with her bare hands. Later, it took Commander Yi, who was about to break through to the human limit, to fly to Huaihai and subdue her. She was that strong back then? Lin Chia was shocked. Strong? She was a monster. What happened next? After controlling her, the then Night Watchers commander Wang Qing ordered her to be locked in the abstinence hall. Commander Yi couldn't bear to see such a young child sent to that place and pleaded desperately for her, ultimately saving her. After that he kept Jin Yan by his side, teaching her how to behave properly while preventing her from losing control again. What happened after that I'm not clear. In any case, not long after, Jin Yan left Disya, saying she wanted to find a way home through the mist. Commander Yi couldn't stop her and had to let her go. Later, a force calling itself the Shangxia Society rapidly rose to power in the mist. I see. Lin Chia nodded. Suqing glanced at the time on the wall and stood up from his seat. I'm about to go to Chinnan Pass. The matter of connecting with the Shangxia Society will be left to you. Your mission isn't over yet. Bring Zhou Ping back as soon as possible. If that's really not possible, I'll have to deploy Lu Wei. Yes, Lin Chia answered seriously. Suqing picked up several documents and was about to leave when he noticed Lin Chia still standing silently at the desk. He couldn't help but ask, "Is there anything else?" Yes, Lin Chia was silent for a moment. I want to find someone's home address. Home address? Whose? Xinqingzhu's. Beijing City. Night Watcher's Cemetery. A figure wrapped in a tattered cloak slowly stood up from in front of a tombstone. A gentle breeze swept through the cold cemetery, making the petals of the white flowers in front of the tombstone dance like scattered snow. The girl's black hair lifted, revealing a pair of reddened eyes. She reached out her hands, gently rubbing the black and white photograph in front of the tombstone, murmuring, "Transferring fate, exchanging life, soul completely destroyed. Yifan, you were so thorough. Now, I don't even have the chance to see you in the National Heroes Spirit Hall." The girl gazed at the photograph for a long time and let out a deep sigh. A deep red figure walked through the cemetery, slowly approaching her side, looking at the tombstone before them with complex emotions, and placing white flowers in front of it. "Why are you here too?" Jin Yan saw Lin Chia beside her and asked in surprise. "I just left headquarters and sensed you were here, so I came by to pay my respects." "Your spiritual perception is really useful." Jin Yan rubbed her reddened eyes, pretending nothing was wrong as she teased. "You must use it to peek at girls a lot, right?" "I never do such things." "Come on, don't pretend. If I had that ability, I'd be sneaking peeks at handsome guys' abs every day. Be honest about who you are." Jin Yan waved her hand, took one last look at the tombstone, and turned to walk out of the cemetery. "Tell me, what else do you want from me?" "How did you know?" "I can tell with a simple calculation that you need something from me." Jin Yan snorted. "Tell me now while my heart is soft. Once it hardens, it won't be so easy to get me to agree." Seeing this, Lin Chia didn't beat around the bush anymore and asked directly, "Do you know about Xia's sword immortal Zhou Ping?" Jin Yan's footsteps faltered slightly. "Zhou Ping? You mean that guy with the sword case?" Jin Yan nodded. "I know him, he's been to Utopia." "He went to your Upper Evil Association headquarters?" Lin Chia's eyes lit up. "Yes, about half a year ago," Jin Yan pondered. "He seemed to be lost at the time and somehow encountered our ship. Seeing he was from Great Xia, I let him stay at Utopia for a while. Later I found out he had reached the divine realm. He's simply a monster." "Half a year ago?" Lin Chia immediately asked. "What about after that? Do you have any news of him?" "Afterward, he never returned to Utopia, but I heard him say he was going to Olympus to fight for the night goddess." These words fell on Lin Chia's ears like a bombshell, and his eyes lit up with joy. The night goddess of Olympus could only be Nyx. Lin Chia had previously heard that after Nyx returned to Olympus, she directly split the Greek divine nation, leading a group of Greek deities to rival Zeus's faction. If she hadn't tied up Olympus, Great Xia's situation would likely be even worse. So Zhou Ping disappeared for so long because he went to find Nyx? "However, I recently heard some news." Jin Yan pondered for a moment. "Nyx's faction seems to have encountered some trouble and is being suppressed by Zeus's faction. The situation doesn't look good." Lin Chia's heart sank. "How bad is it?" "I don't know the specifics. If you're in a hurry to find him, you can come back to Utopia with me. I have channels to gather intelligence from Olympus." "What channels?" "That's confidential." Jin Yan put his hands in his pockets and smiled mysteriously. "I can only tell you that the powers and conflicts in the mist are not as simple as you imagine." Lin Chia scoffed but didn't pursue the matter further. "When do we leave?" "In 2 days. I still have things to do in Great Xia," Jin Yan said. Lin Chia pondered for a moment. "That works. I also have something to take care of. Let's meet in the capital in 3 days." Lin Chia walked through the main hall of the Night Watchman headquarters and approached by Li Pangpang and the others. "How did it go? Is there a way to rescue Brother Zhuai?" Chao Yuan immediately asked when he saw Lin Chia return. "Not yet, but the Celestial Court is working on it." Hearing this answer, Everyone's expressions dimmed. What should we do next? Continue looking for Sword Saint. And Qingyu pushed up his glasses. Yes, we found some clues about Sword Saint, but for specifics, we'll probably need to visit the Upper Evil Association headquarters. Lin Chia paused. Before that, we need to make a trip to Linjiang City. Linjiang City? Why are we going there? Bai Li Pangpang asked in confusion. Chao Yuan froze as if remembering something. Linjiang City. Isn't that Brother Zhuai's hometown? That's right. Lin Chia nodded. Before Brother Zhuai sent us away from hell, he asked me to visit his home for him. Now we have 2 or 3 days free, so let's make the trip. Brother Zhuai won't be back for a while, so we should go and at least report that he's safe. Lin Chia knew clearly that when Shin Qingzhu said those words, he was probably just looking for an excuse to persuade them to leave. But whether as a brother or to fulfill a promise, he had to make this trip. Otherwise he wouldn't be at peace. Come to think of it, Brother Zhuai hasn't gone home once in all these years since he left, has he? Bai Li Pangpang pondered. Is it because he doesn't get along with his family? We'll find out when we get there. Lin Chia was about to leave, but after a moment of silence, he walked back to the main hall of the Night Watchman headquarters. What's wrong? You go ahead, I need to use the bathroom. Seeing Lin Chia's figure gradually disappear, Bai Li Pangpang scratched his head. Why use the bathroom now? Let's go wait outside. By the way, I still have some experimental materials in the security department. I'll go get them. Alright, I'll call the butler to bring the Rolls-Royce around to take us to the airport. As they talked, everyone dispersed from the headquarters entrance, walking in different directions. Lin Chia walked to a certain counter at the Night Watchman headquarters and knocked on the glass window. Hello, Captain Lin, how can I help you? A clerical staff quickly approached. Lin Chia pondered for a moment, took out a card and passed it to the counter. Please withdraw a year's salary for me and deposit it into this card, thank you. Fasting Institute. A helicopter slowly landed on the sea platform, and Jin Yan, wearing a tattered cloak, jumped down from the aircraft. Hello, I'm Li Yongguang, the temporary supervisor here. In the wild wind stirred up by the helicopter rotors, a doctor in a white coat stepped forward and shook hands with Jin Yan. Jin Yan took out a document from his pocket. I'm here to pick someone up. Commander Swa has already informed us. This way, please. Dr. Li led Jin Yan through the gates of the Fasting Institute, heading directly to the prison area inside. Where is he? Jin Yan asked in confusion, looking at the empty cells on both sides. Oh, it's currently mealtime and free activity period in the prison area. He's with the other inmates eating in the cafeteria. I'll take you to find him. The two walked into the cafeteria, where indeed many inmates in black and white striped clothes were eating. Jin Yan's gaze swept across the room and locked onto the table in the farthest corner. At that table sat only 2 people. One wore distinctive blue and white striped clothes, with disheveled hair and a dirty face, eating with his head down. The other had a cold expression, with one arm covered in snake scales, staring absently at the sunlight outside the window. Old Dog Wu, go somewhere else. We need to talk to him. Dr. Li approached the table and gave Old Dog Wu a look. Old Dog Wu raised his cloudy eyes, glanced at Dr. Li, paused briefly on Jin Yan, then reluctantly stood up with his tray. Oh. While he was examining Jin Yan was also examining him with increasingly curious eyes. After Old Dog Wu walked away, Jin Yan came to his senses and said to Dr. Li, Your Fasting Institute truly hides dragons among men, doesn't it? Dragons among men? Dr. Li raised an eyebrow. You mean Old Dog Wu? Jin Yan nodded. Him, Dr. Li smiled. He is indeed quite remarkable. Jin Yan. Lung Xian saw Jin Yan was stunned for a moment, then asked in surprise, Why are you here? Why else would I be here? Jin Yan took out the document and smiled. I've come to get you out. Linjiang City. A plane slowly descended. Lin Chia and the others had just walked out of the airport in casual clothes and were standing by the street preparing to get a taxi when Bai Li Pangpang picked up his phone. Hello, Secretary Sun? Yes, we've arrived, you can come over now. Bai Li Pangpang hung up the phone and soon a stretched Lincoln pulled up to the curb. A middle-aged man with graying temples got out of the car and bowed slightly to Bai Li Pangpang. Sorry to keep you waiting, please get in. Lin Chia asked in surprise, You arranged a car again? How do you have cars wherever you go? Not really, it just happens that Lin Jiang also has a branch of our Bailey family company, so I borrowed the CEO's car for use. Bailey Peng Peng chuckled. It's not that I'm too high and mighty to take a taxi, it's mainly because I don't carry cash, and it's too much trouble to buy out taxi companies every time I need to pay. Lin Chia and the others got into the car, gave an address, and the vehicle slowly started moving. Bailey Peng Peng leaned back in his seat, turned his head to gaze at the gloomy sky outside, his brows slightly furrowed. Don't you feel something's not quite right about this city? Bailey Peng Peng's sudden question startled everyone in the car. And Qingyu looked around through the car window and asked in confusion. What's not right? It's just, the yin energy seems a bit heavy. Heavy yin energy? Chao Yuan was stunned, carefully examined the roadside for a moment, then suddenly realized, indeed Linjiang City has many beautiful women and they're dressed quite coolly. Bailey Peng Peng's mouth twitched. I'm not talking about that kind of yin energy, I mean in terms of feng shui. Since when did you understand Taoist feng shui? Chao Yuan asked suspiciously. Just something I've been pondering about on my own. Bailey Peng Peng answered vaguely. Lin Chia closed his eyes and a few seconds later slowly opened them, shaking his head. Within my spiritual perception range, there's nothing unusual in the city. Not a single mystery to be found. Could you be overthinking it? Bailey Peng Peng looked out the window, his brows furrowing even more, then withdrew his gaze and lowered his head in thought. His cultivation and Dao fruits had not yet returned. Could he really have misjudged? The weather in Linjiang City has indeed been consistently poor lately, Secretary Sun, sitting in the driver's seat, promptly reminded them. Umbrellas have been prepared for everyone, please remember to take them with you later. After driving on the elevated highway for about an hour, the vehicle stopped by a remote street. Lin Chia got out of the car with an umbrella. Before him was a cluster of low residential buildings. Judging from the geographical location, this area should belong to the suburbs of Linjiang City. Bailey Peng Peng and the others followed behind Lin Chia, their gazes sweeping the surroundings. Is this it? Why does it feel like these are all abandoned old houses? 1 or 2 months ago, this area was designated as a demolition zone by the Li Group, and residents have gradually moved away. I'm not sure if the person you're looking for is still here. Secretary Sun explained in a timely manner. Demolition? Did we arrive too late? Possibly. 7. Where's Brother Zhuai's address? It's inside the alley. Lin Chia recalled the files he had seen. 83 East Altar Alley. Everyone fix up your appearance. When we face Brother Zhuai's relatives later, don't slip up, understand? Don't worry, we're comrades from the same camp as Brother Zhuai. Bailey Peng Peng patted his chest. We won't give ourselves away. Let's go. Lin Chia and the others followed the worn-out door plates, making their way along the muddy path of the small alley, finally stopping in front of a rusty iron gate. Their eyes swept over the erected signboard and everyone froze in place. 7. Are you sure this is it? No mistake. Bailey Peng Peng asked with wide eyes. It shouldn't be wrong. Hanshan Orphanage? Chao Yuan's face was full of confusion. How can it be an orphanage? Didn't Brother Zhuai tell you to visit his relatives for him? Wait, let me make a call to confirm. Even Lin Chia, who had always been confident in his memory, was uncertain now. He immediately walked aside, took out his phone, and contacted the personnel from the Night Watchman's Archives Department. A few minutes later, Lin Chia returned with a complicated expression. It's correct, this is the place, Lin Chia said slowly. Brother Zhuai's Night Watchman file lists this as his address. According to the clerical staff who verified the files back then, he was indeed an orphan. When Brother Zhuai asked me to visit his home for him, it was probably just an excuse to get us to leave hell. Upon hearing these words, the small alley fell into dead silence. After a long while, Chao Yuan finally asked, So what should we do now? Lin Chia looked at the signboard at the entrance, which was so rusty that the name was barely visible, remained silent for a moment, then sighed deeply. Regardless, this is where Brother Zhuai grew up. Since we're here and there seem to be people inside, let's go in and take a look. Seeing that no one objected, Lin Chia reached out and shook the iron gate. The rust scraped, making a harsh creaking sound. Who is it? I don't know. I'll go check. It's not those thugs again, is it? Several childish voices came from the courtyard inside. A girl wearing a red jacket with rosy cheeks cautiously peeked out from behind the door. Her eyes fell on Chow Yuan and she immediately burst into tears. It's gangsters. Those gangsters are back. And they look even fiercer than before. Chow Yuan. Soon an old man in his 60s wearing reading glasses walked out of the old house with a hunched back. He was holding an iron rod in his hand with a stern face, looking quite tough. Didn't I tell you? We're not moving. Why are you still coming? Do you think this old man is easy to bully? Before he finished speaking, he raised the iron rod and struck the gate fence hard. With a dull thud, the old man's hand holding the rod trembled, and his expression immediately stiffened. He silently put his hand behind his back. I'm warning you, I'm an old man. If you harm me, I can sue you to death. He raised his head defiantly. Sir, please don't misunderstand, we're not bad people. Lin Chia pulled the disgruntled Chow Yuan behind him and asked as gently as possible, Excuse me, do you know Shin Qingzhu? Upon hearing the name Shin Qingzhu, the old man's eyes narrowed slightly. Who are you people? He frowned, suspiciously examining the strange young people before him. Seeing the old man's reaction, Lin Chia knew he had come to the right place and repeated the explanation he had prepared. We are Shin Qingzhu's comrades from the same military camp. We're on leave and came here on his behalf to pay our respects. You're the Kid Shin's comrades? The old man raised an eyebrow, his expression noticeably softening. After hesitating for a moment, he reached out and opened the iron gate. Come in and we'll talk. It's surprising that the Kid Shin still remembers us. He hasn't called in so many years. I thought besides sending money here every month, he never wanted to come back again. The old man patted the iron filings off his hands, snorted coldly and turned to walk into the courtyard. Lin Chia and the others followed closely behind him. By the way, where's the Kid Shin? Why didn't he come? Oh, Shin Qingzhu is on a secret mission and couldn't get away, Lin Chia answered with a straight face, then quickly changed the subject. What should we call you? My surname is Lu. I'm the director of this private orphanage. The old man pushed up his reading glasses. Old Lu led Lin Chia and the others through the narrow courtyard and into the only old-style suite in the compound. The house wasn't tall, making it somewhat cramped for young people like Lin Chia. The rough, aged walls had been carefully painted with light green paint, with hand-painted red flowers outlined on them. Though worn down, it had a kind of pure warmth. As soon as they crossed the threshold, Lin Chia saw 3 or 4 children hiding behind the door, curiously yet fearfully examining them. The oldest was about 12 or 13, while the youngest was only 7 or 8. They wore old-fashioned but very warm cotton jackets, with rosy faces that showed they were well-nourished. Only one small boy in the corner seemed different. In this weather he wore only a thin gray hoodie, his face somewhat pale, and he appeared to be older than the other children. Back when the Kid Shin said he was joining the army, I didn't believe it. With that terrible temper of his? I thought he'd be sent back by the drill instructor on the first day. Old Lu muttered as he walked. I never expected he'd actually stay. Hey, what rank is he now in the military? He's an officer, Lin Chia replied after a moment's thought. He's earned many merits and even trained a batch of new recruits this year. He's highly respected. Old Lu turned into a small room that looked like an office, but besides a wooden desk, a few benches and thick stacks of newspapers piled in the corner, there was nothing else. Old Lu set out benches for everyone and sat down himself, grinning as he said, Not bad, he hasn't embarrassed me as the director. Director Lu, how long has this orphanage been open? Bailey Pang Pang looked around and couldn't help asking. More than 30 years now. Director Lu unscrewed a thermos, blew on a few shriveled goji berries floating on the water and said leisurely, Don't look at this old man now, but back then I was a well-known entrepreneur in Linjiang. I made quite a bit of money by my 30s, then I had a serious illness and came to understand some things. I opened this orphanage to do good deeds. At that time, Linjiang hadn't developed yet and this place wasn't too remote. Later high-rises were built, fewer and fewer people lived around here, and gradually it became a neglected little place. I'm not bragging, but in these 30 years at least 70 or 80 orphans have left this place. The Kid Shin was one I found by the river 20 years ago. Lin Chia nodded thoughtfully. By the way, what was that about thugs you mentioned earlier? This place is old, so naturally people have their eyes on it. Recently, that Li group wants to develop a real estate project here, so they often send hooligans and ruffians to cause trouble. But it's no big deal, this old man isn't afraid of them. Old Lu took a sip of tea and said nonchalantly, "They're just bullies. If Brother Qingzhu were here, which thug would dare to cause trouble in our East Altar Lane?" The little girl in the red cotton jacket who had been squatting at the door immediately stood up and said indignantly, "That's right, when Brother Qingzhu was here, who in Linjiang's underworld would dare mess with us? Brother Qingzhu would knock their teeth flying," the other children chimed in. "Tisk, you're just children, what do you know about the underworld? It's all the Kidshin's bad influence on you." Old Lu glared at them. "If that's the case, why don't you move away?" Chow Yuan asked puzzledly. "This place is so old, wouldn't a new environment be good? Are their terms not favorable?" "It's not that." Old Lu opened his mouth, seeming to want to say something but didn't speak. "I understand." Lin Chia nodded and gave Bailey Pang Pang beside him a look. Bailey Pang Pang stood up, smiling as he said, "You all keep talking, I'll go make a phone call." After Bailey Pang Pang left the room, Lin Chia and the others chatted for a while longer. Outside the window, the gloomy sky grew increasingly dark, with lightning flashing between the clouds, seemingly about to bring a downpour. "Not good, it's going to rain again and I haven't bought vegetables for dinner yet." Seeing the changing weather outside, Director Lu immediately frowned, hurriedly stood up, grabbed an umbrella and headed for the door. "Let us go for you." Lin Chia immediately rose. "No need, you young people don't know how to buy groceries. Listen to this old man, just stay and keep these little rascals company. We'll have dinner together before you leave, and you can tell me all about what merits the Kidshin has earned in the army." The rain began to fall steadily as old Lu opened his umbrella, pushed open the iron gate and walked out quickly. Inside the Hanshan orphanage, only Lin Chia's group and the few children remained, looking at each other awkwardly. Due to Jiang Er's special form, she had been hidden in the speaker in magnetic field state at Qingyu's waist, with her coffin body in the trunk outside the alley, so only Lin Chia, Chow Yuan, and Qingyu remained in the room. Just as Lin Chia was struggling with how to communicate with the children, Bailey Pang Pang, holding his phone, beckoned to him from outside the window. "Chia, come here for a moment." Lin Chia was startled, then stood up and went out. Chow Yuan's gaze swept over the tender-faced children before him. After much hesitation, he tentatively opened his mouth. "You all." All the children immediately stepped back, looking at Chow Yuan with fear, especially the little girl who was almost on the verge of tears. "No, I'm not a bad person. Chow Yuan, with his fierce-looking face, tried to explain something in vain, but the children quickly turned and ran into another small room, as if escaping from some terrible monster. "Chow Yuan." And Qingyu stood up with a smile, patted Chow Yuan's shoulder. "Don't be discouraged, appearance is something you're born with. But if you need it, I can give you plastic surgery when we get back." Under Chow Yuan's resentful gaze, and Qingyu followed the children into the small room. Soon the sound of children giggling could be heard from inside. Chow Yuan let out a long sigh. At that moment, his gaze met with that of the only child who hadn't run away, sitting in the corner. Chow Yuan saw that the child was looking at him, with no sign of evasion or fear in his eyes, which slightly eased his heavy mood. He walked up to the boy, crouched down and asked as kindly as possible, "Aren't you afraid of me?" "Why should I be afraid of you?" the boy calmly replied. "I've seen people who look fiercer than you, it's no big deal." Hearing this, Chow Yuan's mood greatly improved. "What's your name? How old are you?" "Wu Quan, 15 years old. 14 years old. Are you in school?" "Ninth grade." "Ninth grade? Should be preparing for high school entrance exams, right? Don't you have school today?" "Today is Sunday, no school." "That's right. Good boy, study hard, you'll definitely have a bright future." Chow Yuan nodded repeatedly in approval. After chatting for a few sentences, just as Chow Yuan was about to stand up, Wu Quan suddenly spoke. "Brother Qingzhu, is he really on a secret mission?" Chow Yuan's gaze sharpened, then he smiled and said, "Yes, why do you ask?" Wu Quan's pitch-black eyes stared at Chow Yuan for a long time. "Oh." After speaking, Wu Quan turned and walked into the room, closing the door behind him. "Chow Yuan, come over here for a moment." Just as Chow Yuan was sighing, and Qingyu poked his head out from another door and beckoned to him. Chow Yuan walked over. "What is it?" "Look at this." Chow Yuan entered the room and saw 4 or 5 children sitting on a rubber mat in the center of the room playing, while Qingyu stood alone in front of a white wall, one hand supporting his chin as if deep in thought. Following Qingyu's gaze, Chow Yuan discovered that the wall before them was covered with various crooked colorful doodles. Each doodle had a different style. There were blue birds flying, black cars, red crosses, little painters holding brushes and palettes. Next to these diverse doodles were names written in crooked handwriting, seemingly done by children. "What is this?" Chow Yuan asked. "It's the children's career dream wall," Qingyu said, pushing up his glasses. "They told me that every child living in this orphanage draws what they want to do in the future, or who they want to become. That girl in the red jacket, named Li Xiaoyan, drew the red cross on the wall. Her dream is to become a nurse. And that boy playing with the racing car model named Qian Qing dreams of becoming a race car driver. However, what I really wanted to show you is this." And Qingyu pointed to the center of the wall. Chow Yuan followed his finger and was slightly startled. In the center of the doodle wall, drawn in the most vibrant red strokes, were 3 neat characters. Xin Qingzhu. Although the strokes were somewhat childish, the strangest thing was that there were no doodles around this name. "Where is Big Bro's dream?" Chow Yuan asked, puzzled. "Once he had no dream," Qingyu said helplessly. "Or rather, his dream was to become himself. That's indeed his character." Chow Yuan sighed, his gaze slightly shifting to land beside Xin Qingzhu's name. There was a black umbrella, and whether by coincidence or not, the umbrella's canopy perfectly covered the area above Xin Qingzhu's name, as if protecting it under its ribs. And in the corner of this black umbrella were 2 small characters. Wu Quan. The face of that cold boy immediately appeared in Chow Yuan's mind. "This child," he murmured. "What is it?" And Qingyu asked, noticing Chow Yuan's strange expression. "Nothing." Chow Yuan withdrew his gaze. "Shouldn't we help them deal with the demolition issue? 7 Knight and Fatty are already working on it." And Qingyu turned his head to look at the 2 figures conversing outside the window. Dense raindrops fell like curtains from the eaves, gradually engulfing the view in misty vapor. "What happened?" Lin Chia looked at Bailey Pang Pang, who seemed hesitant to speak, and asked with confusion. 7 Knight, this Li group is quite thorny." Bailey Pang Pang's expression was somewhat grave. "This real estate company isn't just some local small enterprise. Scale is very large. Although not as big as our Bailey group, it ranks in the top 5 in Great Xia, and is a leading presence in the southern market. Trying to acquire it through business means isn't impossible. But it definitely won't be as simple as acquiring a few small companies like before. This would take at least a year of preparation. I've already had our PR team try to negotiate with Li Group, to see if they can let go of this Linjiang plot, but the possibility is slim. After all, in the south, Li Group is the local power. A year. Lin Chia let out a long sigh. A 1-year buffer period. This orphanage probably couldn't hold out that long. Moreover, it wouldn't be fair to Bailey Pang Pang and the group behind him to expend such great human and financial resources for this matter. Let's talk about it properly after Director Liu returns. But does it take this long just to buy some groceries? Lin Chia looked at the time, somewhat puzzled. On a rainy day, it's normal for an elderly person to walk slowly. Look, isn't he back now? Lin Chia turned to look and saw old Liu slowly walking in through the iron gate, carrying fully loaded plastic bags and holding an umbrella. His clothes were soaked through, with some mud stains on the hem as if he had brushed against something somewhere. Grandpa's back. Li Xiaoyan saw this from the window and immediately ran out of the house with the other children, taking the plastic bags and umbrella from him, and ran laughing toward the kitchen. Grandpa Liu, what are we having for dinner tonight? Wow. It's pork belly. I see a big piece of pork belly. And roast chicken? Smells so good. Stupid Qian Qing. No stealing food. Wait in the kitchen until Grandpa finishes cooking. Run slowly, don't fall. Bunch of little rascals. Old Liu slowly walked under the eaves, waved his umbrella, and looked at the running children with a smile curling at the corners of his mouth. He patted the mud off his clothes, glanced at Lin Chia and the others. Get yourselves ready, I'll cook dinner in a bit and we'll all eat together. We won't miss a few more pairs of chopsticks. This rain today won't stop anytime soon. After dinner, I'll prepare a few beds for you and you can leave tomorrow morning. Without waiting for Lin Chia and the others to refuse, Old Lu hurriedly went into the room to change clothes. Chow Yuan and the others, who had been unexpectedly arranged for so clearly, exchanged glances and smiled helplessly. "I'll go help out." Chow Yuan stood up and followed Old Lu into the kitchen. "This old man, though he looks fierce, seems to have quite a good heart," Bailey Pang Pang remarked. He turned around about to say something else, but saw that Lin Chia's brows were tightly furrowed. "What's wrong?" "Something's not right." Lin Chia narrowed his eyes, looking in the direction Old Lu had gone. "He's injured." "Injured?" Bailey Pang Pang was stunned. "Haven't you noticed? He walks with some difficulty on his left foot, probably twisted it, and his arms were somewhat stiff when he was holding the umbrella. Although he was trying hard to hide it, these things are obvious to the observant eye." Lin Chia said slowly. "Could it be that he slipped and fell because the roads are slippery from the rain?" "That's possible." Lin Chia remained silent for a long time, then finally stood up from under the eaves, opened a black umbrella and walked straight outside. "I'm going out for a while, I'll be back soon." Lin Chia passed through the open iron gate, turned around the corner and gently pressed his hand against the void. A red-eyed black shadow rose from the rainwater, placing one hand on its chest and bowing slightly. "Guardian Black Pupil at your service. I want to see all images from this road over the past half hour," Lin Chia said calmly. Black Pupil nodded, immediately transforming into a shadow that attached itself to Lin Chia. A single red eye suddenly opened in the middle of his brow. The crimson eye overlaid the images it saw onto Lin Chia's retina. The afterimages of past time flashed rapidly before Lin Chia's eyes like a video playing in reverse. Old Lu's figure retreated out of the iron gate and disappeared into the misty rain in the distance. Lin Chia, dressed in casual clothes and holding a black umbrella, with a faint red glow emanating from under the umbrella, walked calmly along the rainy path. Finally, at a corner 2 streets away, he saw several different figures. There were 4 or 5 menacing middle-aged men in their early 30s, with either tattoos or fierce scars on their shoulders. They were smoking cigarettes and striding purposefully toward the alley where the Hanshan orphanage was located. As they walked, their lips moved, seemingly saying something. Black pupils, secret viewer, could only see the past but not hear sounds. Lin Chia could only deduce from their moving lips that their destination was the orphanage. At this time, Old Lu was carrying a fully loaded shopping bag, hurrying through the rain from another street. The thugs didn't see Old Lu, but Old Lu saw them. Old Lu's expression changed instantly. He looked at the nearby Dongtan Lane, then at the thugs heading straight for the orphanage, his face showing anxiety. He barely hesitated before carefully placing his shopping bag full of vegetables and meat on a stone stool by the roadside. Then he dashed forward, shouting something while running toward the thugs. The thugs heard the noise, turned to see Old Lu, were momentarily stunned, then approached him with cold smiles. They grabbed Old Lu by the collar, said something menacingly, and when he defiantly raised his head, they punched him into the muddy roadside field. The rain poured down on him, soaking him completely. Then the thugs swarmed him, kicking and punching the curled-up Old Lu for a long time before spitting twice and walking away cursing. Old Lu lay in the field for nearly a minute before slowly getting up. He coughed with age, his hands trembling slightly as he brushed off the mud, limped to the stone stool, picked up the clean vegetables and meat, gave a complex look in the direction they had gone, sighed and gradually walked toward the orphanage. Watching that figure gradually disappear in the afterimages of time, Lin Chia's hand gripping the umbrella handle involuntarily tightened, his finger joints turning white. Lin Chia took a deep breath, shifted his gaze from the direction Old Lu had gone to the path the thugs had taken, his eyes bursting with cold, killing intent. "Black pupil," Lin Chia spoke grimly, "lead the way." "Yes." In the heavy rain, that figure holding a black umbrella disappeared like a specter on the deserted street. "Come. Drink. Tea. This terrible weather really ruins the mood." "Exactly, with such heavy rain and we still have 2 debt collections tonight. Damn it, I'm bringing my knife tonight. Any little bastard who doesn't pay, I'll give him a few cuts. Those few thousand here and there are small change. If we could drive away that old man and those motherless little brats, that would be real money. Indeed, the Li family is truly generous. This job is worth 10 of our usual ones. We should go make trouble at that orphanage again tomorrow. Even if we have to use knives, we must drive them away. Come on, let's finish this drink first." Under a shelter made of plastic sheets, 5 men were gathered around a low table, each holding a bottle of beer, drinking heartily. The pouring rain hit the plastic sheets and rolled down the slope to the ground, making a dense tapping sound. One man with a scar on his face finished an entire bottle, put it down on the table and burped. Awesome. I'm not bragging, but when I was young. Huh. Before he could finish, he suddenly felt the small table was a bit crowded. He raised his slightly intoxicated head and scanned everyone's faces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Why are there 6 people? The scarred man rubbed his eyes, his gaze falling on the 6th person who had appeared beside him. It was a young man in his early 20s with a very unfamiliar face. A black umbrella was placed by his feet, with rainwater dripping down the umbrella ribs. Judging from the extent of the water stain, he had been sitting there for quite some time. The scarred man's pupils contracted sharply, instantly sobering up. He jumped to his feet, almost flipping over the table full of beer bottles. Who the hell are you? As the scarred man stood up, the others also came to their senses, staring intently at the ghost-like young man before them. Lin Chia sat quietly on the wooden bench, a snow-white long sword laid across his knees, his eyes calm like an autumn lake, undisturbed. I ask you answer, he said flatly. Damn it, get him. Without another word, the scarred man grabbed a beer bottle from the table and swung it at Lin Chia's head, his face vicious and malevolent. Crack. Lin Chia remained seated without moving, but the long sword on his knees suddenly flashed with a blur of light, cleanly cutting off the entire arm of the scarred man holding the bottle. Ah! Agonized screams echoed under the shelter. Copious blood poured to the ground like a waterfall. The other thugs stared with wide eyes, completely dumbfounded. They looked at Lin Chia sitting on the bench in terror, as if looking at a god of plague. The scene before them had completely exceeded their understanding. One of the thugs raised his foot to flee, but in the next moment, a flash of the blade cut off the foot he had stepped forward with. He stumbled and fell to the ground, his screams unbearably shrill. Lin Chia sat at the messy low table, his eyes calmly scanning everyone's faces, and repeated quietly, I ask you answer.